In this channel, I've talked a few times about how important representation is, from different cultures to even your own personal identity. But sometimes, representation can also mean something a bit more simple and less delicate than that.
Smash Bros! We all love this series, right? I don't. Every time a new game releases, we all get very excited over who's gonna be a new character and what type of cool moves they will have. Sometimes, more than the character itself, we care about how said character will represent the series it comes from. For example, I love Pikmin, and naturally it makes me happy when people get into the games because they like Captain Olimar in Smash. Oh cool! Pyro and Metroid were added as DLC, now more people will be interested in playing Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Whether that's a good or a bad thing, it's up to you to decide, but for me, that's a great thing. The way I see it, these characters aren't just a new fighter, they are a mean that can push people to try something new. Naturally, when you're a fan of a certain franchise, you want it to be represented in the best possible way, by having a fun character with a moveset very reminiscent of the source material. Maybe you also want an iconic stage, or an item, and even the music too. And that's what today's video is about.
I'm quickly going through all the franchises that have a fighter in Smash Bros. To see which ones have the best representation and which ones don't. So, I think it's only natural I start with
Super Mario style!
Mario is like the only franchise nobody can ever complain about being poorly represented. I don't think it's even possible to have nitpicks about it. As Nintendo's literal face, Mario is represented incredibly well in everything. And I mean everything! Mainline games, spin-offs, even the games nobody gives a shit about, and even the terrible ones get some love. When we already had a more than excellent representation, they continued to add more. Mario getting tons, a costume, and aesthetics based in Odyssey. Luigi getting a new poltergeist way before Luigi's Mansion 3 released. You got Princess Peach taking care of Super Mario Bros. 2 and the sports spin-offs. Rosalina being full Mario Galaxy, and so much more. Honestly, what else can you say? I think you can make an entire video on what each Mario thing in Smash Bros is supposed to represent, because it's insane how much there is. So in conclusion, everything here is perfect. No complaints. Donkey Kong also doesn't have it so bad. You got stages representing multiple eras of the macaco. There's Diddy Kong being more reminiscent of the WarioWare era, and it only got better with King K. Rool being added to the mix, while also bringing with him one of the best Smash remixes of all time. My only nitpick is that Donkey Kong's moveset, while I enjoy it, it's generic and it feels like they could have done more with it. It's so jarring that there's nothing like barrels, the animal bodies, or the Again, it's nothing too serious and he's still one of my most used characters at the end of the day. Although I do wish his stages did more than just being jungle themed. Donkey Kong as a franchise has always stood out for having a wide array of locales, so having all of them always be based on the first jungle level, it kinda sucks. But still, Donkey Kong has a lot of love, and these complaints are nothing but nitpicks. The Legend of Zelda. Another flagship Nintendo franchise that naturally has a lot of representation, from fighters, updated movesets, and character models. The latter I always thought was so cool, like no shit! You have no idea how much I adore Ganondorf's Ocarina of Time appearance, and Zelda's Link Between Worlds one. There's a lot of fun stages, items, and great music, where all of them give love to different games, from 2D to 3D. So yeah, the Zelda franchise has it very good, although I'm honestly very surprised that they haven't added anyone new since Brawl, especially when in the past there were lots of requests for more characters like Gimpa, Skull Kid, Girahim, and especially Midna. And sure, I know 3 of them are assist trophies, but for such an important Nintendo franchise it is jarring that, technically speaking, we only have 3 characters and their variations. And I'm still a bit sour John Link didn't get his mask powers from Majora's Mask. But hey, it doesn't ruin my day at all. And I like playing as the Zelda characters, they sometimes push me to replay the games, which is what this representation should achieve. Metroid is a franchise that in hindsight, its representation can be kinda lame. 4 fighters, where 3 of them are Samus, and 2 of them play the same. But honestly, I'm super satisfied with the Metroid representation. The stages have always done a great effort to showcase some of Samus's many adventures. Each game always added more great remixes, and let's be fair, besides Mother Brain, Crave, and
The baby.
who are also in Smash by the way, who else is as iconic as Samus, Dark Samus, and Ridley? Sure, Rondas is cool and all, but will you seriously use a slot on a character who dies in the first few hours of Prime 3? I think this is a great selection of characters and overall good representation. Like, literally my only nitpicks as a Metroid fan is that Samus should have gotten an updated moveset. With the massive arsenal of weapons and skills she has in her original games, she now feels super outdated, and it also doesn't help that Dark Samus plays exactly the same. And I also hate that Samus still wears her other M suit instead of Prime's or Samus Returns' suit. But again, that's just my own preference. If this gets more people to try Metroid, that's what matters to me. Yoshi. I won't waste too much time on this one. Just like Mario, Yoshi has a fantastic representation all around Smash. From the stages, his simple moveset very reminiscent of his games, and even the different colors Yoshi can have. They even went as far as to give him a skin based on Crafted World, a game nobody gave a shit about. And it all came at the cost of removing his black Yoshi skin. Not worth it. And why they never made a remix of Yoshi's Island final boss theme? I'll never understand. Kirby! As Masahiro Sakurai's literal child, one will expect Kirby will get all the love, right? Well, yes and no. Make no mistake, Kirby has so much to his name in Smash Bros. That one can outright call it bias. And guess what? It is bias, but mostly for the games that Sakurai directed. Kirby's Dream Land, Adventure, Superstar, and Air Ride. Not to say the other games haven't gotten anything, there's music and Kirby's Ultra Sword. But when you look at the stages, items, assist trophies, marks being a boss, and the fact that there's only 3 fighters, it's very clear Sakurai has a bias for the things he was responsible for. And I mean, it's his game, he can do whatever he wants, that's fine. But the Kirby series in Smash feels like it's been stuck since Brawl. I personally wouldn't have minded Bandana D. I'm not saying he would have been more epic than Sephiroth, but like it or not, he's now a huge part of the Kirby franchise. I wanna say on the same level as King Dedede and Meta Knight. Hell, even Magolor, he's very popular within the fanbase and has appeared in more than one game. But well, you know what they say. It's my game, so I get to do whatever the fuck I want. StarFox is weird, cause like, these characters, Fox, Falcon, Wolf, all feel like they're more recognized by Smash Bros. Rather than StarFox. Like, even their movesets are 100% original because in their games, aside from adventures and Half of Assault, you're always controlling a vehicle. Yet, even with that, I cannot say the representation is anywhere close to bad. On the contrary, I respect how they came up with the original movesets for characters who are not known for hand-to-hand combat. And credit where it's due, these 3, especially Fox, are quite liked by Smash players. The representation is a bit more biased towards StarFox 64, but 1, that's nothing new for Nintendo. And 2, all the games are honestly well represented. And yes, even Command has some love. For almost every Smash entry, every StarFox character got their appearance updated to match the most recent game. You got Andros as an assist trophy for the 16-bit era, Crystal pleasing the adventure fans who were eternally corrupted, and even Assault got one of the most ambitious stages in all of Smash. Honestly, I can say all the stages give you the main idea of what StarFox is all about. Epic space battles. But the cherry on top is how you can have the StarFox crew have conversations depending on which characters are fighting. It adds so much to the charm. Even if Fox McCloud is mostly recognized due to being the melee character, StarFox has a ton of love in Smash, and I'm sure fans of the franchise can acknowledge that. Pokémon! I wanna ask you guys something. Who in their right mind will complain about the Pokémon representation in Smash? 10 playable characters, all of them having moves based on attacks from the mainline games. So many stages that represent different generations with lots of Pokémon in the background, as well as having tons of music, from great tunes taken right from the base games to incredible remixes. Have I ever told you that the Route 10 remix by Yoko Shimomura is one of my favorites in all of Smash? We Gen 5 fans can never stop winning. And of course, you have the Pokéball item. constantly adding more monsters and changing with each entry to make sure different generations get the love they deserve. Honestly, I don't think you can call the Pokémon representation in Smash bad. If anything, you can just have nitpicks. Like me, for example. I'm not exactly fond of the obvious Kanto pandering in the playable characters. I couldn't care less about Incineroar, and for a franchise with a plethora of monsters, I think it would have been cool to have more non-humanoid fighters. Besides Ivysaur, I mean. But again, those are just nitpicks. Whether I'm just having fun with the characters I like, fighting with some of my favorite music in the background, or seeing my favorite Pokémon come out of the Pokéball, it reminds me as to why I still don't fully hate this franchise. Earthbound, or Mother. For a series that only has 3 games, and one of them is Mother 1,
It sucks.
it's surprising how well represented it is. NES being the face of the most underrated game of all time that isn't even underrated anymore. Lucas, the protagonist of one of the most painful games ever made, both of them combining the quirky yet magical aspects of their original games in their movesets, while also bringing more party members in their final smashes. I shit you not, I screamed when I saw Kumatora and Boney having official 3D models. Still mad there was no Duster Love, but I won't complain too much. Then there's the stages, all of them representing some of the series' most memorable locales. Magicant and Newport City in particular get all my love, just because of how much fanservice there is in them. But I think my favorite part about the Mother representation is the music. There's not much compared to other franchises, but every track there is so special because they're all based on some of the game's most iconic songs and moments, being Friends, Pollyanna, I Believe in You, 8 Melodies, Porky's Theme, Mom's Hometown, and the king of them all, Unfounded Revenge. All in all, even though there's only 3 games in total, Smash Bros. Knew how to give love to the entire Mother franchise, which is why I consider this fantastic representation. F-Zero. I have somewhat similar feelings for F-Zero, same way I do with StarFox. Captain Falcon is a character that might as well be considered a Smash Bros. Face, from his completely original moveset, to his usually favorable results in competitive history, and a kinda meme status thanks to unfunny people who love to spam. Captain Falcon is someone better known for Smash rather than his own games, and that leaves me a bit mixed in how he represents the F-Zero franchise. Credit where it's due, I think the stages do a great job in showcasing different eras. You got a 16-bit version of Mute City for the SNES era, another Mute City and Big Blue for X, and Port Town Aerodrive for GX. There's a decent amount of music, with lots of source tracks and original remixes, where all of them are hyper and so full of adrenaline, just like the main games. And there's Samurai Goro, who is kinda just there as an assist. Maybe the reason as to why I feel mixed is because a part of me wishes there was a bit more of love for this franchise in Smash. But let's be real, Nintendo does not give a shit about it. And for as much as this hurts me, F-Zero is a super niche series. The representation in Smash is not bad at all, but this is one of those cases that makes me think, well, they definitely did the best they could. And I appreciate that. The NES era and Game & Watch. I'm gonna cheat a bit here, I'm going to mention the Smash Bros. Characters who only have one game and originate from the NES era. Almost every Smash game added a newcomer like that, so in this case I'm including the Ice Climbers, Roberto, Duck Hunt, and you know, I'm aware he predates Mario and has more than one game, but might as well throw Mr. Game & Watch into the mix. The reason as to why I pile them up at the same time is because I feel the exact same way with all of them. I find it genuinely impressive how despite these characters coming from all games, with limited hardware and not much source material, they were still able to give them creative and original movesets that still pay respects to their games, like Mr. Game & Watch for example. Every single action he does is something taken straight from his games. The Ice Climbers were so complex to program that they had to be removed from Smash 4, but that speaks lengths on how much work was put in them. Rob got very creative with an original moveset, but still managed to put his own peripherals in action. And Duck Hunt didn't just focus on his game, he represented many other titles that used the NES Zapper. These games may not win in quantity, but their quality more than makes up for it. Fire Emblem is This is the one that has me the most mixed of them all. Fire Emblem is a franchise that one can say is overrepresented in Smash, and honestly, I can agree to that, but I cannot say it is good representation. First, the positives. I love all the stages. You have a very general overview of different eras. The Colosseum, which is a staple in the series, Castle Siege, that is both an Arcanea and Teleus representation, Arena Ferox for the 3DS games, and Gareth Mach for Fortland. Ultimate even added new fantastic assist trophies like Tiki and the Black Knights to accompany Lyn, and I just cannot proceed without mentioning the incredible music. Colosseum medley, meeting theme medley, the Fire Emblem main theme with Latin lyrics, the Melee remix that is beyond iconic, and my personal favorite, the Attack remix from Blazing Blade. Incredible songs! The only reason as to why I'm so sour about Fire Emblem in Smash is because I really dislike how unfocused the character selection is. You have Marth, okay, he's the face of the series, the first protagonist, and he's really fun to play. So why do we need 3 more characters who play almost exactly the same as him? You know, when Lucina was first added, I thought, why not just bring back Roy since he was the original Marth clone? And then Roy came back and only had a few slight changes. Then, Ultimate release and they added Chrom, who became a Roy clone. And I want to ask, why Chrom? I remember Sakurai mentioned that he and Dark Samus were added due to being heavily requested fighters. And I want to believe this is because of the Gematsu leak that was very common during the Smash 4 era that said Chrom and a few others were gonna get in. But after Lucina was added, who the fuck continued to ask for Chrom? Do we really need 3 Awakening reps? Honestly. And then you have Corrin. I won't go deep into it, I have 2 videos that explain why I fucking despise this character and why I consider them the only true wasted slot in all of Smash! Sorry if I sound like a whiny dumbass, but this is one of my favorite series and I always want to see it at its best. Fire Emblem has so many great characters and lots of likable protagonists who specialize in different weapons and even elements, so it sucks that half of it feels so half-assed, and in one case, a marketing device to advertise a shitty game. You can say the same about Violet, I know, I'm aware, but at the very least they're advertising a good game, and no shit! I actually believe the main reason they got so much backlash is because Fire Emblem was already being overrepresented. But to be fair, not everything is so dismal. Again, the stages, the music and other stuff is really good, and the other half of the roster is something I appreciate. Ike, Robin and Violet, they all bring enough variety to justify their existence. And again, Marth still gets a pass due to being fun and being the original main character. I guess the best way I can describe the Fire Emblem representation in Smash is by saying, it's good, but there's so much bath thrown into it. I'll also never forgive them for removing the Tharja trophy from Smash 3DS. Give Icarus. This is a franchise that went from great representation to the most obvious bias in all of Smash. When Pete was added to Brawl, I can say his representation was on par, if not better than every other NES character. They used everything the original Kid Icarus game had to offer while still adding some neat new ideas. Then time passes and Kid Icarus Uprising releases on the 3DS, and I'll just say, fantastic game, and it deserves a port or a sequel as soon as possible. But the important part of this is that said game was directed by Masahiro Sakurai, so if you thought that his Kirby games received all the attention, those lack in comparison to how much of everything Kid Icarus Uprising gets. 2 extra stages, new assist trophies, a crazy amount of items, over 15 enemies in Smash Run, the insane amount of trophies from Smash 3DS, all the music and remixes, Pete getting an updated moveset following Dark Pete as an Echo Fighter, with Palutena also being playable while having the most diverse selection of custom moves from Smash 4, which I'm very positive nobody ever used them. And of course, just like StarFox and another franchise I'll mention soon, there was also the Palutena guidances, where Kid Icarus characters will have conversations depending on who was fighting, while still having all those comedic elements and fourth wall breaks from the original game. All in all, Kid Icarus has a very noticeable bias in Smash Bros thanks to Sakurai, but Uprising references the original Kid Icarus all the time, so I think it balances out. Except Myths and Monsters, but I don't know a single person who played that one. B. Uprising is a fantastic game, so I think it deserves all the attention it can get. And C. I'm gonna repeat the same joke I made earlier. It's my game, so I get to do whatever the fuck I want. WarioWare. Honestly, you don't have to be an expert to know how well represented it is. You have Wario in his iconic WarioWare outfit, two stages that represent the microgames from the WarioWare series very well, there's Ashley, one of the most popular WarioWare characters as an assist trophy, and she even has a Mii custom. And you also have a small but still great selection of WarioWare music. Yep, there's no doubt that despite its small amount of content, WarioWare is still well represented in Smash. But that begs the question, what about Wario Land? I mean, there's a reason that series has a lot of games, why fans beg for a sequel, and they're basically the games that recognize Wario could be a great lead character. Of course, that doesn't mean there aren't any Wario Land elements, but it's so minimal that it makes this series feel like an afterthought. I believe this is because Smash Bros. Completely changed the image of Wario, because in both Smash and WarioWare he's always depicted as this ugly, rotten, gross man who farts a lot. But Wario Land games always gave me the impression that he was this cool, macho man. And sure, he was still gross at times, but I feel that Smash embraced that gross side a bit too much, and that's how Wario is always perceived. I even remember this one time when Shigeru Miyamoto said that the reason as to why Wario wasn't playable in the new Super Mario Bros. Series was because he will need to have a fart attack, and like... No? Did he forget about the Wario Land games? Or Mario 64 DS? I mean, at the end of the day, Wario is still a fun and great character, but it's very obvious how WarioWare gets all the love while the Wario Land representation is borderline bad, and that fact has altered the perception of the character entirely. Metal Gear Solid. This franchise doesn't have much in terms of content, but what there is something that every single Metal Gear fan can appreciate. From Snake himself, who is supposed to be based on Solid Snake, but also has the face of Big Boss, to his moveset that combines CQC, stealth techniques, and multiple firearms, to the fact that David Hayter reprised his role as a character, as well as having high-quality remixes and iconic music from the franchise. And of course, you also have Gray Fox as an assist trophy. But the tip of the iceberg is Shadow Moses Island, not only one of the most iconic locales in the Metal Gear universe, but also due to how much fanservice there is on it. You got the alert sound effect, Metal Gear Rex, Metal Gear Ray, and the geckos in the background. The stage was developed by Hideo Kojima himself, and the best part about it, just like StarFox and Kid Icarus, Snake can also contact his allies to have unique conversations.
Hey, that's Luigi. Show him a little respect.
I shit you not, as a preteen I found this easter egg to be so cool that it gave me the push I needed to finally want to try the Metal Gear franchise. And if that's not what good representation should achieve, then I don't know what is. For the first third-party franchise, whoever got into Smash, Metal Gear is full with love, references, and respect. Not like the next franchise who... Sonic the Hedgehog. Can I be real with you? I don't really like the Sonic representation in Smash. First of all, right next to Corrin, I genuinely think Sonic is the most boring character to play in all of Smash. Sure, he's fast, but his entire moveset is just... pelota. And if it's not that, he's just so generic. It's like Sakurai stuck a bit too much to the Genesis games, but here's the thing. Even classic Sonic has more moves than just... pelota. There's the Insta-Shield, the Elemental Shields, the Super Peel Out, and that's not even mentioning all the stuff that modern Sonic can do. For better reference, Sonic Battle exists. He already had a moveset for a fighting game. See, my problem with Sonic isn't just how boring he is to play, but how he lacks that coolness that defines him, and it got worse in Smash 4 and Ultimate because Sonic is less expressive in those games. This might be cheating, but look at his Project M incarnation. His moveset still has a lot of pelota on it, but the way he moves, he attacks and emotes, he's way more lively and has so much personality. Outside of the character itself, the representation is alright. There's Shadow and Knuckles as assist trophies, alright, very popular Sonic characters, no complaints there. You have Green Hill Zone because of fucking course, and it's an okay stage, but at least it references other characters in the background. Windy Hill Zone is not a bad stage either, but it feels like a modern version of Green Hill, which it kinda is now that I think of it. The Sonic music is weird because it's good, but that's because most of it is sourced from the main games. There's actually only one remix in all of Smash, and that's honestly very lame. But at the very least, having the vocal tracks from the modern era is pretty cool. All in all, as a longtime Sonic fan, having him in Smash was a dream come true back when Brawl released. But now as an adult, and Smash having a plethora of other characters to choose from, I am honestly pretty disappointed with how he's shown in these games. But at the very least I can fight while listening to Night of the Wind. I take what little good I can get. Pikmin overall has a great representation, but there are a few bumps in the road. The stages are very fun and creative, there was clearly a lot of love put into them. Many characters and enemies are showcased as either trophies, assists, or my personal favorite, the Bulbor Stage Hazard. The music is not half bad, although I'm still salty that they removed Ai no Uta and Tane no Uta after Brawl. And while there is technically one fighter for this franchise, I really appreciate that they made Dolph an alternate costume and along with Dolimar, their different color palettes represent other Pikmin protagonists. Except the president. So where's the issue? Olimar's moveset is the issue. And not because it's bad, on the contrary! As a Pikmin fan, it's hard not to appreciate how unique and creative it is, while still being incredibly loyal to the source material. The problem is, Olimar's moveset is so complex to take full advantage of that many people barely play this character. From my own personal experience, the only people I know who ever use Olimar are Pikmin fans or competitive players who know how to use him. Again, inherently it's not bad, but I believe that makes it harder for the casual player to get into the series. And even then, it's not like Pikmin is an easy franchise. Like it or not, these games are not exactly the pick up and play type. They're very challenging and require a lot of strategy to complete. Honestly, I am convinced that the only reason this series is still alive and why it still has a good amount of representation in Smash is because of how much Shigeru Miyamoto loves this universe he created. Which, hey, as a Pikmin fan, I am glad this franchise is not forgotten. But I still wish more people could appreciate how good it is in both Smash and the games themselves.
Well, we have reached the end of part 1. We went from Smash 64 all the way to Brawl. And the only reason I split this video in 2 parts is because we're talking about more than 35 franchises. That's a lot, and these videos are mostly a one-man job, so yeah, I need to take my breaks every now and then. And I don't know if you guys noticed it, but I am kinda sick right now. But anyway, join me next time so we can watch the remaining franchises from Smash 4 all the way to Ultimate. So, I hope you look forward to it. Have a wonderful day, and take care! I'll see you next time!